My name is Sophia Jacob, and I am the Equity and Diversity Liaison with Councillor Rawlson King's office. I'll be the facilitator for today's conversation. We would also like to welcome all the folks who are on Zoom to this meeting. Of course, the meeting is being recorded for information purposes and will be shared later and uploaded for folks who missed the consultation. This evening, Councillor Rawlson King will be sharing many important updates for information, community updates, and we will also be looking to engage in a healthy dialogue that is being provided for feedback towards the 2026 budget. Today with us is Bryn, Aaron, and Athena from Councillor Rawlson King's office, who is also here for tech support and to provide French translation. I also want to acknowledge Michelle, who's also with Councillor Rawlson King's office. She's providing support via the Zoom and French support on Zoom. We just want to thank the catering, that's from Bacchanal, a Black-owned catering company here in Ottawa, who's located in Councillor Rawlson King's ward. We'd like to do the land acknowledgement, which is we recognize that Ottawa is located on the unceded and unsurrendered territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation, and we will extend our respect to all First Nation, Inuit, and Métis people for their valuable past and present contributions to this land. It is also important to honor and respect those whose ancestors have lived here on this territory for a millennia and whose culture and presence have nurtured and continue to nurture this land. I'll also move to the ancestral land acknowledgement. As people of African descent, we offer this land recognition and solidarity with Indigenous people of Turtle Island and their ongoing towards decolonization. We acknowledge that this land was never meant to be owned and that much was entrusted to Indigenous people that was taken through force. We recognize the historic and ongoing impact of colonialism, and land acknowledgements are now offered in the place of the land itself. As people of African descent, many of us arrived here by choice, while many were brought through historical force. We acknowledge the complexities of being promised land that was never given by those who never had the right to give it. We honor the land that sustains us, express deep gratitude to the Indigenous people, and commit to upholding our dignity, divinity, and shared humanities. We enter the second international decade for people of African descent, which has been extended from 2025 through to 2024. We affirm our commitment to recognition, justice, and development for Black communities here and across the world. So just a few meeting guidelines. We are going to go through the presentations. Oh, I'm sorry, am I yelling? Oh, sorry. We're going to go through the presentations and then we are going to have a Q&A. Of course, everybody on Zoom knows how Zoom is working and how it's facilitated. Here, the community can just raise their hand and ask questions once the presentations have gone through. Again, any Francophone support is here from Athena and again from Michelle via the Zoom. I am now going to, let me just say one more thing. If you have a Ward 13 specific question, we will be taking those through email and calls after this. So I'm going to pass it over to Councillor Rawlson King for his opening remarks and to also introduce our first guest. Councillor.
Thank you so much, everybody. Good evening, everyone. And thank you for joining us tonight. Whether you're here in person or participating via Zoom. I'm Councillor Rawlson King, and I'm truly honored to represent Ward 13, Rideau-Rockcliffe, and to hold this equity consultation session for the budget as Council Liaison for Anti-Racism and Ethnocultural Relations Initiatives. Your presence here tonight demonstrates something incredibly important, your commitment to our community and your willingness to engage in the democratic process. This budget consultation is not just a formality. It's a crucial conversation about our shared future and values that we hold as a community. Before we dive into tonight's agenda, I want to acknowledge that the decisions we make about our municipal budget are more than just numbers on a page. They represent our priorities, our values, and our vision for the kind of community we want to build together. Let me take a few minutes to outline why your voice in this process is so essential. And so can we move to the next slide, please? Community participation isn't just encouraged, it's fundamental to effective, equitable, and responsive local government. We need to set community priorities and allocate resources. And your participation helps us do just that. When you speak up tonight, you're advocating for projects and initiatives that directly impact your quality of life. Whether it's neighborhood improvements, enhanced community services, better transit connections, or safer parks, your voice helps shape what matters most locally. Let's be clear about what's at stake. Your input determines how tax dollars are spent across essential services. We're talking about transit, roads, parks, community programs, and all the municipal services that you rely upon every day. Every dollar allocated in this budget reflects community priorities and needs. Without your input, those decisions are made without the full picture of what the community truly needs. Second, participation focuses on building knowledge and encouraging accountability and transparency. Thank you so much. Through this process, you have the opportunity to hold council accountable and ensure responsible use of taxpayer money. Public consultation requires transparency in decision-making and builds trust between residents and local government. This is your chance to ask tough questions, to push for clarity, and to ensure your elected representatives are making decisions in your best interest. But it's not just about holding us accountable. It's about empowering you with knowledge. You'll gain insights about how local government budgeting and taxation works. Municipal finance is complex, and that's why I actually brought that huge binder, that 1,000-page budget. We have a really horrible joke around City Hall where we say that's a very expensive doorstop because it represents over $7.1 billion of spending. But it's important for you to actually provide us input. And I won't pretend otherwise that it's definitely a complex document, but understanding the processes and how this document is created and forged each year helps you see how decisions impact both your community and your household. Knowledge is power, and an informed community is a stronger community. Third, your participation strengthens democracy itself. We build stronger democratic processes through meaningful community input. Every time you engage, every time you ask a question, every time you share a concern, you're reinforcing the principle that government must remain responsive, representative, and accountable to the people it serves. That's not an abstract political theory. That's a practical reality of local democracy in action. And fourth, participation ensures we support all residents. When you advocate tonight, you're not just speaking for yourself. You're helping us understand how to support all community members, whether they're seniors, youth, families, newcomers, and vulnerable populations from our diverse communities. And it's important for us to have these opportunities because often we have the traditional opportunity where we're just speaking toward issues. Here, it's important for us to also listen to our diverse communities and their specific needs. And so, I've been honored over the last several years to be able to do that. And I continue to be committed to doing that because equity and inclusion depends on diverse voices at the table. If those voices aren't heard, we risk creating policies and allocating resources in ways that don't serve everyone. So your perspective, your lived experience, and your understanding of community needs are irreplaceable, and we need to hear from you to get this right. Fifth, your input shapes our long-term future. Tonight's discussion isn't just about the 2026 budget year. The decisions we make now shape long-term strategic plans for sustainable growth, environmental stewardship, and community resilience. Today's budget decisions impact the Ottawa we'll pass on to future generations. Will we invest in climate adaptation, as example? Will we build inclusive infrastructure? Will we create spaces that bring people together and all people together? These aren't hypothetical questions. They're choices we're making right now, and your participation helps guide those choices. Finally, your participation supports economic growth. Whether you advocate for strategic investments, you're supporting local businesses, infrastructure development, or job creation initiatives, or local cultural initiatives, it's important that you give voice to that, because a strong budget drives economic prosperity and creates opportunities for residents and entrepreneurs across Ward 13 and throughout Ottawa. Economic development isn't separate from social well-being, and I hear that all the time from the Black community when I attend multiple events. They're interconnected. The investments we make in our community create the foundation for shared prosperity. Next slide, please. So it's important for us not just to talk about the budget, but also to talk about different community initiatives and opportunities. Often when I hold these sessions, we hear requests around what is the city doing in terms of community investments. So we also want to highlight the progress the city is making to implement more equitable processes and opportunities through its programs. The City of Ottawa is exploring what a community benefit program could look like, as an example. Community benefit programs leverage public and private development projects to generate social and economic outcomes. They typically focus on workforce development through apprenticeships, equity hiring and training, as well as diversifying supply chains and addressing community identified priorities. The city has completed an environmental scan of Canadian municipalities that have developed or implemented these programs to identify best practices. Work is now underway to understand the local landscape, including market conditions, resource capacity, and community priorities. The city is also has established a social procurement program, which is another initiative that embeds social impact into city procurements through the sustainable procurement guideline used by staff. Some city solicitations include social impact evaluation criteria, and all solicitations include a notice encouraging diverse entrepreneurs to connect with national certifying organizations that support businesses in contracting with government. While these practices already exist, the city continues to explore ways to improve equitable access to developing clearer guidance materials and increasing the participation of diverse-owned businesses in project supply chains. The Lansdowne 2.0 project, no matter how you look at that and how certain councillors voted on that, is also collecting data on the participation of diverse-owned businesses to inform future improvements, and that project will have a community benefit development element to it. As city staff continue to explore the potential for a community benefits program, the city will consult diverse communities and partners to identify local priorities and ensure that inclusive hiring, training, and procurement benefits are delivered through the program. Overall, the city continues to explore opportunities to improve equitable access for communities and businesses. Next slide, please. So that's why we're here tonight. And that's why your participation matters. We want to create an opportunity for you to be heard, to shape priorities, and to hold us accountable, and to help build the community we all want to live in. In a few minutes, or a few moments, frankly, we'll hear from several City of Ottawa staff members who will provide detailed information about the 2026 budget, equity initiatives, and community programs. After those presentations, we'll open up the floor for your questions and comments. I encourage you to listen carefully, to reflect carefully, and to think about the issues that matter most to you and your neighbors. Your questions and insights will help ensure this budget truly reflects our community priorities. Once again, thank you for being here. If you haven't had an opportunity to have some refreshments, please feel free. And I'd like to introduce our first presenter, Joseph from the city, our Deputy City Treasurer, who will provide a report on the budget. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much, Councillor King, and thank you very much for the invitation. It's always great to come out to these events and to see such a great turnout actually this year. It seems like every year we seem to have more and more people attending this, which is really, really, really great to see. So my role here today is to try and simplify that giant book there. It may be oversimplified in a manner that, you know, everybody can sort of understand and, you know, have a couple of takeaways on. So I have a presentation that will be coming up here shortly. But my hope is following this presentation that everybody can sort of take away what municipal budgets look like and what budgeting for at a municipal level looks like. So we'll have that coming up here in a second, and we'll kick off. So as that is coming up, maybe I'll just kick it off by kind of explaining that our municipal budget is governed by laws that are created at the provincial level. So municipalities are governed by a provincial law called the Municipal Act. And therefore, everything that we do as a municipality has to be done within the confines of the Municipal Act. So the Municipal Act actually dictates and says, determines how we run our budgets, what kind of revenues we can collect from people, and so on and so forth, and how our services are funded. So one of the things that the Municipal Act requires is that the city has to present a balanced budget. So what does a balanced budget mean? Balanced budget means that revenues or expenditures or whatever we plan to spend must equal the revenues that we generate or what we plan to bring in. So we can only bring forward a balanced budget. Now, the federal and the provincial level are not constrained by this. They can spend more than they actually bring in revenues and go into a deficit position. But as municipalities, we are not allowed to present a budget that does not have any supporting revenues to support that. So I'll then sort of split out, our budget split out into two pieces. So we have what is called an operating budget and what is called a capital budget. So I'm going to try to sort of simplify these two concepts. So the operating budget provides for the annual cost to deliver services and maintenance of infrastructure. So if you think about it, like in your home, you kind of have an operating budget. You probably pay your utility bill, you pay your water bill, you pay, your groceries and so on. So these are monthly recurring elements that sort of make up your operating, quote unquote, operating budget. Now, you also may have a capital budget that you may not have known about, but this is where you're sort of doing some bigger expenditures. So you may want to do a big renovation in your home. You may want to replace a roof. You may want to purchase a vehicle or something to that effect, or put a big down payment perhaps on, some project that, you want to do or something to that effect. Now, that would be sort of considered capital budget. So it's very similar to what we have here in the city. So in the city, we have our operating budget, which is basically your recurrent expenditures. So things that we're going to do every year. So that may include things like winter operations, we repair potholes, park maintenance, fire, paramedic services, police services, facility, building maintenance, utilities that we pay for our city facilities, fuel, staff salaries and wages. So that will all be captured in our operating budget. We also have capital budget components, which provides for investments of infrastructure assets that offer us a bit of a longer term benefit. So they could include things like renewal. So for example, you're replacing a roof, or it could include growth or something new that we're building that did not exist before. And capital projects generally tend to can span over several years, right? So those could include longer term elements like road resurfacing, new sidewalks or sidewalk renewal, purchase of new vehicles, buses, snow plows, recreational center, community center renewals, and so on and so forth. Oh, fantastic. There we go. All right. So, yeah. Okay. So we can move on to the next slide. One more. Actually, two more. Next one. All right. Okay. So we have various budgets and levies. So we have what we call our tax supported budget. And that tax supported budget is supported by a tax levy, on your property tax bill that is called a citywide levy. So if you've received a tax bill, or if you receive a tax bill from the city, you'll see all of our different levies broken out. They're broken out because we want to be very clear and transparent in terms of what components of your property tax are paying for what elements, right? We also have a transit services budget, which is supported by transit levy. We have a police services budget that is supported by police services levy. And then we have a rate supported budget, which is generally supported by water user fees. So if you receive a water bill from the city, all those funds that we collect from the water bill go to support our rate supported budget. Okay, next slide, please. So I'll get into each of the levies and budgets and kind of explain what they support. So our citywide tax levy, or citywide tax budget, supports a couple of different services. So an example of tax supported programs would include road and winter maintenance, your parks, recreation facility programs, libraries, public health, paramedics, community social services, fire services, the OAG. Now, some of these services are not 100% funded by our citywide taxes. Some of them we do. For some of them, we do receive some provincial funding. So, for example, public health, we get 75% of our funding from the provincial government. For paramedics, we get about 50% of our funding from the provincial government. And for community and social services, it kind of varies depending on the type of service that we are providing. Let's move to the next slide, please. So we also have what we call a transit budget. So as the name suggests, the budget is sort of responsible for all of our transit services that the city offers, and that we sort of recover those funds through what we call a transit levy. So the city's fiscal framework recommends that we recover at least 55% of our transit expenses from of operating costs. Transit fares recover about 55% of our operating costs and 45% through property taxes. Transit services also receive some funding from the provincial and federal elements as well, and it falls under the authority of the Transit Commission. So the next budget is the police services budget. So the police service, levy funds the police services operating and capital budgets, and it falls under the authority of the Police Services Board. Next slide. Okay, so this year we have tabled a budget of 5.2 billion for 2026. All right, so discussions and deliberations on that budget are ongoing. The budget was tabled early November, and deliberations will be going at the final vote to be had by council closer to mid-December. And so all the components of the budget will go to different committees for discussion. But if you a quick snapshot in terms of understanding, actually, did I miss a component? Okay, rate supported budget. Sorry, I missed the rate supported budget. That's a very important element. So the city's water, wastewater, and stormwater services are funded through a separate user fee. And this user fee is charged generally through your water bill, right? And those fees that we collect from that are used for, services such as drinking water purification, delivery of clean water to residents and businesses. We use it for collection and treatment of wastewater. So wastewater is all the water that goes down your sink or down your toilets. It goes somewhere, and we gather it all, we clean it up, right? And we make sure that we're not, dumping toxins and all that other stuff back into our environment. Then there's stormwater management. So when all the rain comes down, it goes down these manholes and nobody really knows where it goes, but it just goes and it disappears and our streets are not flooded. So there's a lot of underground infrastructure that it's amazing how much underground infrastructure we have across the city that helps deal with either water, taking away wastewater, and also dealing with stormwater drainage. It's massive and very extensive to make sure that our city is well drained, and all the stuff that we're sending down our drains are sort of getting treated appropriately. It also deals with water meter installations and life cycle. So we just had a big project where we replaced about half of our water meters because they were end of life. And so those are the types of initiatives that a rate-supported budget would support. Okay, next slide. So I may have alluded to this already. Our budget that we're tabling for 2026 is 5.2 billion. And as you can see here, a good chunk of it, or you can see at the very top, goes towards community and social services, transit, water, wastewater. A lot of this information is available online, and I'll talk about it later on in terms of how you can browse and understand that very complex book in somewhat of a simplified manner to help you understand the bigger elements of our budget. So this is what our operating budget looks like. Let's move to the next slide. So for 2026, we are tabling also a capital budget of $1.92 billion. And again, this is largely hard infrastructure that we are sort of looking to construct, or very tangible assets that we're looking to create. So it may include purchase of vehicles. It may include construction of or renewal of roads, and our transit train infrastructure, and so on and so forth. So you'll see the major buckets in there, again, related to transit, transportation, drinking water services. So all the infrastructure that I said is underground that nobody sees, and again, integrated road, wastewater, and water services. All right, next slide. Okay, so a little bit of insight in terms of how our capital budget is funded. So the renewal elements, the renewal just means we have something that's in place, it's getting old, we want to make sure it's in a state of good repair, so we renew it. So you've seen, some streets perhaps that, we've sort of been filling the potholes for years, and then suddenly the city comes through and gives you a nice resurfacing that's done, and you kind of drive on a nice smooth road for another couple of years. So that's more of what renewal sort of looks like. So we fund that mainly from, as you can see, from a mixed combination of debt and reserves. And then we have growth, which is new infrastructure that did not exist before, and that's largely funded through our development charges. All right, let's move on to the next slide. Okay. So municipalities are also allowed to impose user fees and charges to recover the costs of delivering services in their jurisdiction. So some people just say, well, why can't you just charge everybody what you want? We can't charge people what we think we want or what we would like to charge them, because we're not allowed to make money from user fees, right? So if something costs me $50 to do, that is all we're allowed to charge people. So we can only charge a cost recovery fee. So we can't charge you more than what it actually cost us to deliver that service. So user fees are generally used to offset the cost of providing that goods or services. And so some examples of that would be like transit fares, recreation program fees. So if you register for a swimming lesson, or the gym or facility and arena rentals for those of you that enjoy hockey, building permits, for example, parking permits, water utility fees that we just talked about, garbage fees. So they're very user specific. They're not broad. It's not, everybody gets to pay like a tax, right? They're very specific. If you're receiving that service, then you get charged or assessed that user fee. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. So the next slide really just gives you a bit of a breakout in terms of how we are funding our 5.2 billion budget. So about half of this, as you can see, is funded through property taxes. So about 45% is property taxes, and another 4% is payment in lieu of taxes. So this is what the federal and provincial entities pay the municipality in lieu of paying taxes. If you do recall, over the last 2 or 3 years, there's been a strong campaign to ensure that the federal government is paying its fair share, because we do have a very large federal government footprint here in Ottawa. About a quarter of the budget is funded through municipal grants, and another quarter is funded through our user fees that we just talked about and service charges. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. So this slide really is to help illustrate how the city sort of develops its budgets and sort of what forms that long-term planning in terms of making sure that we are financially stable. So a lot of this comes down to what we call long-range financial plans. So we have plans for each and every sector to kind of say, okay, how much does the city require in order to maintain services and grow our services over the next, 5, 10, 15 years. And so what are our needs in those areas, and how do we think that we can actually fund them? So we've had a couple of renewed LRFPs and renewed LRFPs. So we try to do these LRFPs every 3 to 4 or 5 years to make sure that they're current and reflect current needs. And those LRFPs are what sort of drive our, say, capital requests and our some of the requests, operating requests that we actually have in place. So you can see some of the things that we've done over the last couple of years. We also had a Ontario-Ottawa deal that we struck in 2024 that also provides some additional funding for us. We have some LRFPs completed this year, in the last 2-3 years, and we have some more coming in the coming year as well. Okay, let's move on to the next one. So one of the things that we've also been doing in terms of ensuring that we are, efficient and are good stewards of the finances that we have is looking at the efficiencies, that areas that we can find efficiencies within the system. And within this term of council, which has been the last three years or so, since November of 2022, the city has found efficiencies of $252 million. That's a lot of money, because that is close to about a 12% tax increase that the city would have had to pass on to its residents if we had not found these efficiencies. So I'll move on to the next slide. So we'll talk about some of the investments that council is making to their 4 term of council priorities. So this council has established 4 priorities for its term, which are important to it, and want to make sure that we're seeing great advancements in that area. So the first one is a city that has affordable housing and is livable for all. And you can kind of see some of the investments that we've actually put in over the last 4 years. In terms of provincial homelessness, municipal capital funding towards affordable housing, reduction of childcare fees, investments in development or expansion of facilities, parks, etc. Let's move on to the next slide. So the second term is investment into a city that is more connected, reliable, safe, and accessible mobility options. So you can kind of see the investments that we've actually done over the last couple of years within this term of council around enhanced winter operations, road resurfacing, renewal of our OC transport fleet, and investments into pedestrian and cycling infrastructure. Let's move on to the next slide. So the next one is, a city that is green and resilient. So these are a couple of investments that we've put into towards zero emission buses, upgrades to some of our facilities, fire equipment, safety equipment, and climate change master plan. And finally, the fourth one is a city with a diversified and prosperous economy. So here's an example of some of the investments, again, that we've made towards this particular element, which includes alternative mental health supports, some phased implementation of the William Street Byward Market Square streetscaping, some Invest Ottawa efforts, and so on and so forth. Okay, next slide, please. One more. Okay, awesome. So public engagement. So how can you engage with the budget? So one of the ways you can engage with us in this process and help in terms of forming that 1,000-page doorstopper is these types of discussions and engagements that we're having here. Discussions, of course, with your ward councillor, in this particular case, the liaison for the equity and gender. Sorry, this one always gets me, but you guys know anti-racism, exactly. So that kind of engagement is important. So speak with Councillor King, speak with your ward councillor as well if you're not from Ward 13. Make sure you let them know the elements, the things that are important to you. So council-led consultations such as this. There's also online forums. that you can actually engage with as well. There's social media that you can actually engage with as well. We have a social media presence that allows you to do that. We have some promotional videos also online that allow folks to understand the budget process a little bit better. And so my last slide is really around some of the efforts that the city has made to try and simplify the understanding of the budget process. So we've tried to simplify this 1,000-page book into a couple of simple elements. So we can move to the next slide. And so if you go to ottawa.ca and go to the budget section, you'll find that we have a budget magazine. So the budget magazine this year, I think the first year we did it was last year, it was probably about 30 pages. Now it's probably a little bit bigger, but it's very colorful. As you can see, it tries to explain in a very simplified manner some of the investments that we're making. We also have tools that allow you to understand how and where that $5.2 billion is going. We have some additional data through Open Ottawa where people can actually explore different elements of our budget. But all these elements are in a bid to try and simplify the budget process and help folks understand the budget process a little bit better. So with that, I'll pass it back to you, Councillor King, unless there's any questions. I don't know if we're going to take them now or later.
Our plan is to just hold on for a second. Our plan is to take the questions at the end, and I'll let Sophia introduce the next speaker. But thank you so much, Joseph, for the in-depth presentation. Much appreciated.
Can I borrow your microphone? Thank you, Joseph. And our next presentations, we've got two people from the same office. Sonia Liberty, the Equity, Diversity, Inclusion, and Indigenous Relations Community Social Service Department, and Elise Ashimwe. She's also from the Equity and Community Social Service Department. So we will get them back to back. All right. Thank you. Yes, this is amazing. I love this. Okay, thank you.
I'm just going to lower this because I'm really short. I'm just going to give it a moment for them to load. Perfect. Thank you very much. And thank you, Joseph, because you know what? I've been around a long time and you did that remarkably well in like 15 minutes. That's really impressive. So good evening, everyone. Bonjour à tous et à tous. My name is Sonia Liberty, and I am the acting director of Equity, Diversity, Inclusion, and Indigenous Relations, known also as EDI-IR. And I'm joined here with Elisa Shimwe. She's the program manager for the equity team, and she provides strategic leadership and plays a critical role in advancing our equity initiatives at the city. So our team is committed to embedding equity and inclusion across the city's work, and our goal is to dismantle systemic barriers and build meaningful relationships and partnerships with equity-deserving communities. I just want to take an opportunity to thank Councillor King and his office for inviting us here tonight, again this year, to explain to you who we are, what we do, and how our budget supports Black and equity-deserving communities. So we'll get you to move to you. Oh, thank you. Oh, so am I too loud? Is that better? Okay. Oh, okay. I didn't realize. If you can just move to slide number 2, please, that would be great. Perfect. Thank you very much. So I'll just move over to who we are. So EDI-IR is part of Community and Social Services Department, and we're one of 9 city departments. We're not depicted here, but so our department's mandate is to support residents through essential services such as housing, employment, financial assistance, childcare, and long-term care. And we work with community partners to create programs that promote inclusion, independence, and a better quality of life, with the goal of building a safe, healthy, and welcoming community for all. We are accountable to City Council, governed by the City Manager, and work closely with Councillor King, who indicated earlier that he is the Council Liaison for Anti-Racism and Ethnocultural Relations. Oh, it's too loud. Oh, okay.
No, you're good. You're good.
I'm good? Okay.
Just like this.
Okay, good. So EDI-IR collaborates with community, city departments, and council to advance barrier-free, and inclusive policies, programs, and strategies. Our work addresses the needs of equity-deserving communities, and that includes 2SLGBTQIA+, Black, Indigenous, racially marginalized groups, people with disabilities, women, gender diverse persons, older adults, immigrants, newcomers, and youth. So I'll move on to the two teams. Oh, no, move back. I haven't finished, sorry. The equity team that leads corporate and community strategies to advance equity and inclusion. And then we have an Indigenous relations team that builds respectful relationships with Indigenous communities and provides insight on legislation and policy impacting Indigenous peoples. So we'll move to slide 3, please. Thank you very much. So we have a complement of 20 full-time staff, strengthening our capacity to advance equity and Indigenous relations work. So I do want to kind of delve in a little deeper in terms of what the Indigenous relations team does. We are actively responding to Truth and Reconciliation Commission's calls for action, I should say. And we work closely with host nations and internal partners to co-develop Indigenous governance and engagement strategies. We also collaborate with Indigenous communities to create learning opportunities that build awareness among city employees. And to date, we have addressed over 110 Indigenous priorities through consultation across multiple departments. Now I'll move to the equity team. We're slightly a little bit larger. We lead the development of the city's equity, diversity, inclusion, and belonging framework, which includes anti-racism strategy, women and gender equity strategy, and corporate diversity and inclusion plan. Acting as an internal consultant to ensure projects, reports, and programs apply that equity and inclusive lens to all our communications and policies and strategies that I just mentioned. We also develop learning tools and equity-based learning and development strategy. And we're currently driving 52 initiatives under the corporate diversity and inclusion plan across 5 key areas that include outreach, recruitment, partnerships, learning, and accountability. So there are just a few things I want to highlight since our presentation last year. The community funding services, which is managed by Cynthia over here, has moved to the community safety and well-being service area. It's still found within Community Social Services Department due to its a better alignment to operational priorities. And you'll see that our name in the budget books is reflected as Gender and Race Equity and Inclusion and Indigenous Relations. We're formerly known as GREER, and we just had a name change. So we tried to simplify that mouthful. So we're now known as Equity, Diversity, Inclusion, and Indigenous Relations. It reflects a clear focus and identity. So unfortunately, it didn't make it into the budget books, but it will be there next year. And I just really want to just take a moment to assure folks here tonight that, our team, the staff, we're working really hard to ensure that our programs and our partnerships and our investments are designed to address systemic barriers, respond to community priorities, and advance inclusive outcomes across the city. So now I'd like to turn it over to Elise, and she's going to provide an overview of the equity team's mandate, the recent work we've done, and the priorities for the year ahead. Thank you and merci. Miigwech.
Thank you, Sonia. I think we're going to need to bring it up a little bit.
You're a little bit taller than me.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah. All right, perfect. Thank you. If we can go to the next slide. My name is Alice Ishimwe. I am the acting program manager for the equity team. We have a staff of, as you saw, this is the largest team on Sonia's team to really advance the actions that are in the anti-racism strategy and the women and gender equity strategy from the community, and also inform the city's direction on corporate diversity and inclusion plan. we are accountable to the community for what came from those strategies, extensive consultation. I recognize some names of people who were involved in informing those strategies. And our role as a small team of 9 is to support an organization of 20,000 people to understand and drive the work on what we heard from the consultation from the community and anti-racism strategy and women and gender equity. We are also accountable to city employees who tell us what they would like to see us shape the organization as an employer, to include inclusive hiring practices in how we retain and promote employees, and also to educate our city staff across all 12 departments on how to be an anti-racist, how to be gender inclusive, and how to support and engage with the community properly. Our work this year has been focused on streamlining these fancy plans you see over there to make sure they make sense to the organization that we are working with. We have specialists on the team that support each department in making sure that reports that are going out make sense to you as the readers in the community. The community engagement is tailored to the audience and to the communities that are being targeted to provide input. And I saw some of our work in the Councillor King's slide on community benefits and how to make sure that we're hiring from Black and racialized communities, that we're also promoting inclusive hiring and making sure that city jobs are advertised in a way that makes sense to the readers, that candidates are able to see themselves represented in our hiring process. It's a monumental task, but we're going one department at a time to make sure that hiring managers are streamlining the language. For example, I can recall a couple of years ago, we were working with a department to make sure that their job posting does not include having a driver's license if that is not something that they have to do in day one on the job, because that can eliminate newcomers who are looking to access the job market, who are looking to come and serve on the city's staff without having to have that driver's license, for example. That's one of the many things, but there's also acronyms and language that is very technical that if you don't work for the city, you won't understand. So those are the things that our specialists on the team reach out to make sure, is this really necessary? It's excluding a number of communities when we present things like this, and we continue to see engagement and changes in the city. It's not very fast, but at least we're making progress to make sure that we advance slowly. And this year we've been focusing on developing outcomes that all city departments can carry on and achieve on, but also that makes sense to the community. We had a community engagement session in July. I think I remember Sophia was there to talk about the women and gender equity strategy and the anti-racism strategy. And then we take all those inputs that we heard from those community engagement sessions to all 12 departments to see, this is what we're hearing about facilities, for example. This is what we're hearing when garbage is being collected. Now, maybe some neighborhoods and communities don't feel included in this process. What can you do? So we are hoping in 2026 as well to continue this work with the city to establish a baseline they can start from, and also give them direction to say maybe our CF community and social services should focus on this. We heard so much this morning on our city managers and our general manager advancing a budget for community and social services and informing childcare changes and housing. We consult on that as well to make sure that these city workers, when they come to you, they have language that reflects what we see, or even diversify the language. It's not everyone who speaks just English and French. If there could be surveys that could be translated in different languages, for example, that's one aspect of what we advise on, and also to avoid consultation fatigue with city staff coming to you several times in a short amount of time and asking the same questions. So those are high level what we've been working on as a small team. If I can go to the next slide, please. And see, these are some of the achievements from our equity team that are based in the community. We had, thanks for Councillor King, a budget envelope to support an anti-hate campaign. This is the first year this campaign was achieved. I'll speak about it more in the next slide, but it was engaging many community partners in describing what it is that they would like other people to know, to feel included, to promote history, to promote identity, and creating a space on different platforms in the city of Ottawa. I'll speak about that a little bit more, but we also had a small budget of $120,000 to support Black-led organizations. And this year, 75 of that went to, I see Tony here, she left, the SCB Wellness and Resource Center to deliver training for financial literacy for the youth so they can learn how to manage their budget, building credit at a younger age. And this year they delivered the training over the summer for 130 participants in French and English. So very commendable for such a small organization to carry on this work. We're very proud of that partnership, and Cynthia's team helps us with the connection of such organizations. And the rest of the 45K was rolled into project funding to support Black-led organizations. I believe the announcement is coming very soon for community organizations that are Black-led that applied for their projects to be funded by the city and continue that leadership. Some of the community partners we highlighted here were participants in the anti-hate campaign. There was a lot of consultation and engagement at the beginning of the campaign, as soon as we received the budget envelope from Councillor King on how we shape this campaign to make it community-centered, community-informed, and as much as possible community-led. Our biggest partner was Pinecrest Queensway Community Health Center and the United Way of Eastern Ontario. We worked with Rideau-Rockcliffe, this is a Somali organization, Brotherhood Coalition for the Emancipation Day in July. Black History Ottawa also provided a lot of walking tours and bus tours over the summer to highlight the contribution of Black and racialized communities in Ottawa. That was our biggest partner this year as well, on top of walking tours for Indigenous communities to learn the Indigenous aspect of our city right here where we don't see it, but there's a lot of contribution for these communities here. We had about 850 attendants to these walking tours. And this is only the people who managed to provide input, but there is a lot of, come on, we're going on a tour, let's learn how the impact of Black people has been, mostly Centertown and around downtown Ottawa. Be More Black as well was engaged. Stop Hate Alberta provided training to city staff and community organizations to learn how to be an upstander, the history of racism and how it's showing up in organizations. That this was a 2-day training as a train-the-trainer training. So these people who were trained, I believe 40 or 50 who were trained to go and educate more their organization partners, their employees, or even as a resident as well, to just be a better neighbor, a more informed neighbor, and understand the impact and the history of racism in Ottawa. If we can go to the next one. These are some of the highlights of the anti-hate campaign, our first year of delivering this project in partnership with the community. As I mentioned, we saw at least 850 participants in the campaign. We want to see more in 2026. And we offered bilingual walking tours, as I just mentioned, from the whole summer. So whether they were from Black History Ottawa, Indigenous walks, there are ones that were around Chinatown as well to highlight the contribution of the Chinese community in Ottawa, and those that were from the Fairy Cowboy to educate about the queer community in Ottawa as well. We have a research going with Carleton University and City Archives to explore the impact of Black and racialized community labor in Ottawa, in the history of Ottawa. We're very excited for when that comes out to be shared back with the community so we can see our ancestors represented in the place where we live right now. We are also the abstinence training I mentioned that was delivered by Stop Hate Alberta that we're hoping to promote and continue promoting in Ottawa as well. And Emancipation Day for the Freedom Train ride. Many of you came, I see you, Elaine, on July 31st to support our understanding of what freedom meant to the Black community in Ottawa. It was an awesome event. We also contributed donations to the cell phones for Ottawa Victim Services to be able to call 911 when they have an emergency. And we have ongoing training. We just finished the first round of anti-racism and anti-oppression for our senior leadership. So all our directors, including Sonia and Joseph, are being trained on understanding the history of racism in Canada, to understand how to position their leadership to be more inclusive, to value Black contribution on their teams, to understand why it's important to have diverse teams, why it's important to recognize and celebrate the contribution of the Black communities in Ottawa, and also how to be an anti-racism and anti-racist leader. I believe there's a chart they sign at the end of the training to commit to practicing ongoing education and be informed on how to be a leader that understands the history of racism, that doesn't negate it. For those comments we keep hearing, well, racism does not exist in Canada, when we do know that it's there. So that is impactful training that we're hoping that we can increase capacity and have the second level of leadership program managers be trained, and eventually all employees that you see in parks and recs, and you see our facilities, you see our swimming pools, that are also trained on how to understand racism and how to combat it in our city. Last but not least, we are going to present the outcome of this amazing campaign to Strong Cities in December. Our anti-racism specialists are going to be present at the conference to highlight what this campaign informed us in Ottawa. It was our first try. We hope to continue renewing the campaign. We're looking at you, Councillor King, and be more attained to many voices in the community and have it be more community-led and community-centered. So in December in 2025, we're going to speak at Strong Cities about this campaign and hopefully secure provincial funding to add on to this envelope. We do know that 150K is not a lot, but we hope that that can be increased so we can have more impact and long-lasting impact. I forgot to mention that we had a book discussion on gendered Islamophobia as well in June, to bring together the voices of the Islamic community and the intersectional gender and how they experience exclusion. Yeah, I think that's it. What was the next slide? Yeah, 2026. So we're hoping to continue this campaign, Councillor King. Thank you for your advocacy at the council table. And to also continue offering this Black-led initiatives support through community funding. I think Cynthia will talk more about that. And you know, they were in discussions on making sure that the funding is accessible for Black-led organizations and grassroots organizations. And then we're hoping to get a yes on December 10 when the budget is passed. And we're hoping to see you at as we develop the second version of the anti-hate campaign, to see our events, to see our consultations, to reach out to your community partners so we can be able to hear your voice and your contribution to these campaigns, because that's what really educates people who have not seen a different side of the story. Thank you. Merci.
Thank you both for your presentation. We are going to hear from Cynthia Paget, and then we will move to questions. We will start on Zoom. So Cynthia, if you'd like to do your presentation now. Yeah, okay, we'll have you. Yep, yep, you'll just have to, you're taller than I am, so.
Thank you. I'm not even wearing my high boots. Yeah. Good evening, everybody. Very pleased to be here today. Thank you for inviting us. I'm Cynthia Paget. I'm the program manager of social development and funding and the community funding framework is under my portfolio. I am joined tonight by Stefan Nuping and Balvir Sura. They were the specialists on my team that led the midterm review, the community funding framework, and a lot of what we're gonna talk about you tonight comes of their work. I was told to do a 5-minute presentation, so we kept it short, but we'll be here for questions too. Yeah, next slide, please. So the community funding framework allocates in 2026, pending budget approval, we'll have about 32 million of municipal funding that is allocated to over 100 nonprofit agencies every year. The vision is really to have a strong, sustainable nonprofit sector working together to make Ottawa an equitable and inclusive city. So we work with nonprofit agencies that deliver essential programs and services directly in their communities. We invest financial resources and also capacity building resources, and the funding specialists are a great support for the agencies when it comes to planning, program and services, and the sustainability of the agencies. The community funding framework is built to continue to evolve on a strong equity foundation. We aim to improve community well-being, tackle poverty, and ensure fair access to services for those facing the greatest barriers. The $32 million is divided between a few funding streams. The Sustainability Fund is our biggest funding stream. It's a long-term 5-year renewable commitment, and it's about $27 million out of the total. So it's the big bulk of the funding that the city invests. We also have a community safety and well-being plan fund to support the priorities of the community safety and well-being plan of the city. We allocate project funding for pilots and capacity building, and also to enhance program deliveries. You might, if you're part of agencies that apply to project funding, you know that the results of 2025 are coming out tomorrow. Not to hold anyone's breath, but it's tomorrow. We also offer emergency funding, emerging community needs funding to answer to faster, more nimble, time-sensitive issues that arise in the communities. We center the allocation around priority populations, including to LGBTQ, Francophone, immigrant, newcomers. The list is on the slides here. The 2026 budget highlights that was carried at Community Social Services Committee this afternoon, includes, as for 2026, 32 million, including 760,000 in inflation to add to the envelopes, and an additional 476,000 specifically for food security. This is our 3rd year investing more significantly in food insecurity. We work with multiple agencies, emergency food banks, and also agencies that have programs that have an important food component, because we know that food brings people together, and it's access and dignity and well-being. So that's a quick overview of the community funding framework. Next slide, please. So who can apply? So for most of our funding stream, to qualify right now, an organization has to be a registered corporation, a registered nonprofit for at least 2 years, at the exception of civic events where no registration is needed, and the Sustainability Fund, where an agencies must be in existence for 5 years. The organization must align the community funding priorities, which are poverty reduction, community development, and social infrastructure. Show financial stability, follow the human rights codes, have an elected board of directors, be in good standing with the city, and be located and serve the resident of Ottawa. The tools and services currently available for agencies wanting to access community funding. All the details on the funding stream, the criteria, the priorities are posted on ottawa.ca/community funding. We also manage a distribution list to inform of any upcoming opportunities. If you're interested and you are not receiving the community funding update, you can reach out at communityfunding@ottawa.ca to be added to the distribution list. Every time a funding stream opens, we host information sessions that are usually virtual in English and French and are recorded. And we're happy to share the presentation and the recording afterwards. And one service that is of high value for organization is booking a one-on-one meeting with funding specialists such as Balvir and Stefan. It can be done anytime you have a question about your organization's sustainability or future and interested in the community funding streams. It's also encouraged before applying for a funding stream to have a conversation to verify your eligibility, the alignment of your project with the priorities of the funding stream, because you can get a lot of information from those meetings. Next one. So many of you, I think, know, because we've seen you in some of the engagement earlier this year, we've done, when the process of doing a midterm review of the community funding framework, we're evaluating the operations and the efficiency of the framework to make sure that it continues to meet the needs of the community. The new framework was established in 2022 with the launch of the Sustainability Fund. So 5 years, wasn't 5 years, just a few years later. Yeah, a few years later, we're doing a midterm review following COVID, the inflation, the everything cost of living, the food security crisis, and the housing crisis that we are in. So I want to make sure that we're still aligning with the most urgent priorities. I'll go quickly over that because the What We've Learned report is available on ottawa.ca at community funding if you want to have more information. But the engagement rolled into 2 steps. We had a survey that was sent to the agencies, and we hosted 7 focus groups with 165 participants. We had a session specifically for Black-led agencies, one focusing on rural, Francophone, Indigenous, and yeah, those were the one. Yeah, exactly. And we engage with agencies that receive sustainability funding, that have a long-standing relationship with our office, and also with agencies that do not currently receive funding. The key finding from the midterm review, if you work with an organization, this is probably not a surprise to you. So what we've been suggested, what we've heard clearly in the engagement is that we need to simplify the application, prioritize multi-year funding, improve reporting, so simplify and lighten the administrative burden, strengthen capacity building of the organizations, support collaborations, improve emergency funding, and continue the engagement and the transparency. And last but not least, address systemic barriers. And I'm just going to present on the next slide some of our responses to those concerns. So we are going to council in February and March 2026 to present the result of the midterm review and an updated policy statement. But that is some of the items that we're actively working on right now. So we're streamlining the application and the policies, making it easy to understand. And making sure that we can address some of the requirements and our barriers for the agencies. We're currently receiving like online application through different platforms. So we're gonna explore integrating the applications and the reporting on one online platform that is currently in development. You will see tomorrow for the results of project funding that we have prioritized 3 years project funding and 2025 allocations. We're working with the province to offer grant writing workshops that are going to start in February. Very excited about those. We're going to explore ways of further support collaborations and network. Make sure that emergency funding and emerging community need funding is easy to access and clear to understand as to why the intent of the funding is. We're looking at hosting annual events, either to celebrate the successes of the agencies that we partner with, to come together and discuss specific issues. Two more things that we're very excited about, where we've heard in the midterm review, and we knew already that the equity concerns with accessing funding, not every agencies or every communities had equitable access to funding in the past. So we're starting with an equity review of all of our funding allocations since 2022. Who has applied, who has been funded, and what are the gap in terms of population served, size of the agencies, origin of the agencies, like how long have they been in operations, and all of that. So we'll have this, so the work is on the way right now, so that will help us create equity benchmark moving forward in the allocation funding. And the last, but again, not least, the capacity building. We've heard loud and clear, and it came mostly from the B3 agencies during the consultations, that we need either a funding stream that has an equity benchmark or equity target, or a separate funding stream so that smaller, newer organizations that are very close to their communities do not have to compete for the same pot of money with the community health and resource centers, the Boys and Girls Club of our world. We love them all, but we need to make room as well for innovations and really place-based and community-based services. So we had the opportunities to partner with Bloomberg Associate to explore what a capacity building program would look like. It's really 3 components: simplifying the process of the applications, as we've talked before, having organizations within the communities that have the mandate to support and work with small grassroots organizations to increase their capacity. So that is something that we're actively exploring. And very excited to be working with the Anti-Racism Secretariat again next year to develop a capacity building fund for the agencies. All the details right now, we've committed to the pilot to be tested and evaluated. And the reason why we're doing it next year as a pilot is because we need more time to engage with the agencies. What does capacity building really means? Where would that money be best invested? And making sure that the process is inclusive, transparent, and that it achieves the results that we want to see. Long story short, but we're still here for questions. So we're going with a report to committee in February and to council in March 2026 with updated policy statement and simplified processes that we'll implement after that. And we're looking at launching and testing the capacity building fund pilot in 2026 up to 2028. And any questions, communityfunding@ottawa.ca, and you can find us all. Thank you.
So if all the presenters can come up to the front, so we'll be able to field questions better that way. So we are taking questions, but we're really gonna have to keep the questions short because due to time constraints. We are gonna start with Zoom. Folks who are in the room who would like to ask a question, we'll be using this mic over here on the left-hand side. You'll have to line up. Please, again, make sure your questions are short. Oh, make sure. I'm yelling into the microphone, sorry. Make sure your questions are short so that folks can get in to ask their questions. You guys will be able to share a mic. Oh, underneath, okay, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to start with questions from Zoom. We'll have one Zoom question, and then we will head on over to the floor. So if the first question, Michelle, if you're there and you can hear me, we can have the first question come through.
I am here. I will just say, just technically, if everyone can just keep that microphone away from their mouth, that would be great for those on Zoom. And we have Bo Turpin from the Ottawa Black Coalition to ask the first question.
Thank you for that, Michelle. Thank you for the presentations this evening. It's been informative. So my question is, given that Black residents currently represent about 8.5% of the city's population, yet still aren't named as a specific equity-seeking priority group by the city, but continue to be overrepresented in negative outcomes such as incarceration, negative police interactions, poverty, and anti-Black violence, and underrepresented in positive outcomes such as graduation and employment rates, stable housing, and lower mean income. What specific long-term net new funding investments will the city devote from the budget to redress these historic, systemic, and intersectional inequities in a genuine partnership with grassroots community-led movements like the Ottawa Black Coalition and the Ottawa Black Mental Health Coalition that drive a myriad of the social determinants of health enhancements for the Black community?
Yeah, so I appreciate that question. It's Councillor King. Firstly, before I answer that question, I do want to once again thank Joseph, Sonia, Allison, and Cynthia for their presentations tonight. I thought that they were very informative, and they started to really describe the movement towards investments, especially in the Black community. So as we know, though we have an anti-racism strategy, and we've had one for about 2 years now in a formal sense, it does take time to start to allocate dollars to the community. But I think we're starting to see that, and we saw that in this presentation with $120,000 going specifically to Black organizations to really move us forward in terms of socioeconomic development. And so I've seen it firsthand in terms of the 130 graduates of the financial literacy program, youth, everything from youth to seniors, a lot of newcomers, French and English, actually taking advantage of that program. And I must say that we're working on more investments. So we're working on securing more dollars, not just in the budget, but we're also actively working with the province on investments into equity programs from the province in terms of the forms of grants. So at the last meeting of the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, we actually sat down and met, including the coalition, with the Minister of Citizenship and Multiculturalism, and we talked explicitly about the need for more investments. And we made a specific ask as the city for specific investments in the order of $350,000 for support for these types of initiatives. So we're going to continue to work with partners. It's important to note that we got an outline in the budget of investments of $3.158 million into the Gender and Race Equity, Inclusion, and Indigenous Relations department. We heard an update that we have $32 million of investments in social agencies, but we're looking at diversifying those investments, and we're looking at a capacity building fund pilot, which I think is going to be very important to ensure that different organizations that serve diverse communities, including the Black community, have access to capacity building tools and dollars. So we're going to continue to advocate. I think that we're starting to see those long-term commitments to address systemic inequities in our budget as outlined in our anti-racism strategy. But we need to do more work, and we need to do more work with the grassroots organizations. So that message has been heard loud and clear by myself, and we're going to continue to advocate strongly for those types of investments.
Thank you, Councillor. The next question will come from the floor. We'll have two questions, and then we'll go back to Zoom. So we'll have your question. If you can just keep it short, and then we'll pass it to the mic to whoever you're asking the question.
Thank you. I've actually got a comment, and I'll pass the question to the gentleman behind me who I'm here with. His name is Farouk Khattab. He's a former Ottawa Police Service officer. The comment is, Joseph, you pointed out the city's priorities, and I'm glad you did there. A city that has affordable housing and it's more livable for all. A city that is more connected with reliable, safe, and accessibility mobility options. A city that is green and resilient, and a city with a diversified and prosperous economy. A city with more police is not one of City Council's priorities. And yet, the police, you also showed the chunks of the police of the budget, and the police, I think, was the fourth biggest. And this is a police force that continues to use force disproportionately on Black and Middle Eastern people, and does other things. I'll pass it on to Farouk.
So in advance, my speech will take approximately 1.5 minutes. Okay, my name is Farouk Khattab. I'm a former auto police officer who was wrongfully terminated. I completed all my training, but like many racialized OBS recruits, I never served a single day. The Auto Police Association, the police union, confirmed that mine is not an isolated case. While defending my case, the OPA confirmed in writing that the OBS is displaying a disturbing pattern of systemic gender and racial bias in their termination of recruit constables. There is an overrepresentation of candidates who identify with the protected ground of race, gender, and country of origin in those recruit constables that are being terminated. They also added, the union, they may not have ever terminated a white male or female. Also, as a part of the investigation into my case, a senior OBS officer said, the OBS regularly loses 4 to 5 recruits per class, mostly racialized recruits. That means as many as 20 qualified recruits are lost each year. Not because they failed, but because they were racialized. To break my silence, Chief Eric Stubbs, the OPS chief, to break my silence, he offered me $30,000 and for my resignation and a full release. When I refused, the Auto Police Service Board offered me $70,000. My case now is before my case is now before the Human Rights Tribunal of Ontario. In their draft budget, the OPS is requesting a $26 million increase, with $2.6 million for what they call the Respect, Values, and Inclusion Directorate. This directorate doesn't protect inclusion, it protects the institution. OPS is asking for a budget increase while spending public money to silence, to remove and exclude the very people who say they are trying to recruit. I'm asking you as a councillor and a public servant to look beyond the numbers. This is not just a policy issue, it's a budgeting issue, it's a human issue. Because we cannot keep funding discrimination and call it public safety. I'm asking you to vote against increasing the OBS budget until real accountability and transparent oversight are in place. Thank you.
I don't know if you want to comment. You made a comment, but I don't know if you want me to respond. Yeah, well, I will be we usually do have an annual discussion around budget issues with the police service, and I will be having that discussion. I wouldn't discount anything that you said in terms of the work that needs to be done in terms of building trust with the police service. I'm no longer a member of the Police Services Board, but when I was, we were working hard, myself and the late Diane Deans, who was a councillor and chair of the Police Services Board at the time, in terms of working towards improving equity and especially within the service itself with service members, ensuring that there was equity and working towards the elimination of discrimination within the service. So despite the fact that, as you know, the police service is independently governed, and I think Joseph actually said that in his presentation, it doesn't preclude me from asking questions about the investments that are being made to work towards building more trust with the community and building more equity within the service. I think I have a proud record of doing that in the past. I'll continue to ask those questions. I know that you have a case before a tribunal and within a process. So, I can't speak to those elements directly, but I can ask the service to justify the expenditures that they are making in equity. And I do that every year. And my voting record, I think, also speaks for itself in terms of the police service and its funding. So I just want you to know that oversight is important to us. I don't have direct oversight. We have indirect oversight in terms of the budget vote around the police service. I can only say yes or no around the council table, but I take that responsibility very seriously. And a lot of the decision making that I make politically is tied to whether we're achieving our equity goals and whether the investments versus other investments that we're making, because I do think, often people will say there's just one envelope and there isn't another envelope. I don't view it that way. We only have finite resources at the city in terms of our tax dollars. And I want to make sure that they're maximized in terms of a holistic view of public safety. So I'll leave it there, but thank you so much for your comment. And as I had said before, if you want to reach out to my office independently, I'm happy to speak with you.
Thank you, Councillor. We'll take a question from Zoom. Michelle?
Yes, we have Papa with his hand up. I'm just going to unmute him and then he can ask his question.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Bonsoir tout le monde. I would like to have one part of my question in French and the other part in English, because I'm representing Auto Black Mental Health Coalition and also part of Auto Black Coalition. But first of all, I think my first question is about mental health and substance use health for Black communities. What we are realizing right now is that we have only one platform we are using for Black communities, and we don't have enough. We have a big lack of Black clinicians, but since 3 years right now, we are doing a great job in connecting with some people from our communities who never have an opportunity to talk to a clinician. Part of my question is that our funding for Counseling and Connect will be ending at the end of this year or next year. So what is the plan in terms of mental health, substance use health for our communities, and especially funding in direction of having cultural adapted services for Black communities. And the other part of my question que je voulais peut-être un peu dire en français, c'est que les communautés francophones sont les moins servies dans ça. Et généralement, ce que je me rends compte, c'est que la question que je me pose, c'est pourquoi on a inclus les communautés noires dans équité, diversité, inclusion. Je pense qu'une grosse partie de la difficulté que nous avons à accéder à des funding, it's because we are integrated in equity, diversity, and inclusion. That's, for me, part of the problem we are facing in terms of funding. And like my suggestion will be like working in terms of having special funding for Black communities, like in terms of not including in equity, diversity, and inclusion. And the other thing is seeing the interconnections between the different aspects we are funding. Because sometimes we are funding for Islamophobia, we are funding for, how do you say it, like immigration, we are funding for Black communities. But I'm just taking an example of having a profile of a Black woman with hijab in the city. Like, can we look at that holistic part sometime, helping organizations to work together to address the holistic piece of problematics with some of our communities instead of helping silos? Because we see a lot of silos, and that it's fact that some funding like help the organization to work in silos instead of working together and seeing the holistic picture. So, désolé, j'ai été long, mais c'est ce que je voulais adresser. Merci.
Merci. So when it comes to the funding, you are right. We've heard your concerns multiple times during the engagement for the midterm review of the cumulative funding framework, and it's exactly what we're trying to address with the capacity building fund, the simplification of process. I'm too close. Thank you. And my apologies to people on Zoom. I was like probably screaming in your ears right now. Yes, so I think what we've heard loud and clear as well is the not competing on the same level of organizations that have 20, 30 years of existence. And we'll continue those conversations with the communities, with the agencies as we move forward in the updating the framework. And I think you had something as well.
Yeah, thank you. That's appropriate. I wanted to also add the funding stream for Black-led organizations was born from that specific concern, and we have advocates for a specific funding for Black-led organizations from City Councillor King, and hopefully others as well. We agree that 120,000 does not equate to this big guy right here, but we do hope that continuous advocacy and continuous understanding of the specific needs of the Black community can increase that funding. But I also wanted to mention something you mentioned about this intersectional experiences of Black and racialized people with gender and religion, how the compounding effect really informs how people navigate the system. This is one of the priorities we're carrying out with including anti-racism and women and gender equity and corporate diversity and inclusion plan together to kind of catch the intersectional lens. It's big work because a Black woman who is non-Muslim does not experience the same thing as a Black woman who is Muslim or wears hijab, as you mentioned. But we're hoping that with streamlining the work and working together, we can capture how the system affects different people in that way. So that informs our direction for the development of the DDIB framework, and it continues to be a priority to capture those synergies and have a more compounding effect in our direction.
Perfect. We'll go back to the floor. I just want to preface to say if you can keep your question really short and specific to the question so that we can try and get everybody in for their questions. Next person.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing us to have a dialogue with the city itself and Councillor King. Thank you for inviting me to be here tonight. But I want my question to you, and going back to the city, I've been an activist in this city for many years. We know each other before you become a councillor. We used to meet around and talk about the community and Black issues. But there is nothing changed. We've been applying in our community. They are claiming that there are money going to a Black communities, and those Black communities, we don't get those money. Anti-racism, we apply so many times, been rejected, and we've been putting that the whole money are going to us, and we don't get those money. What are the Black people? When I communicate with them here, I've been active almost 25 years in Ottawa. Most of people here, I see right now, new faces who are sitting in front of you on the table right now. I never see them when I go for other activities in the city of Ottawa. So what we're going to be planning is might have to change the face of the city, because the city is not serious to concern of our needs. Its only need is only to give us that information that there are money for a Black community, anti-racism, and this money, they don't reach us. I've been raising the flag of my country in the city hall, celebrating yearly, and when I apply, nothing I get zero. They've been rejected, and I don't know what to do. Last month, I met with the mayor, and I keep it a lot of times. I met with, and he called me in his office, and I went and I talked to him, and he told me, you have to come meet me, and I met with him in October. I went to the mayor, and we discussed a lot of things. So
I don't want to cut you. I just want you to ask your question.
My question is, why the city is saying there are money going to the Black communities or minority who are living in the city, and those money, they don't reach us? Thank you.
Thank you. I think this is.
Yeah, so I'll just answer that quickly. I think we heard a detailed presentation about the challenges based on the fact that we have a small budget. We're going to look at trying to expand that budget, but of course, $32 million can only be divided amongst so many organizations. But I think what we heard tonight is that there's going to be real work around looking at an equity review of past allocations of dollars, which I think is very important. So we're going to see city staff looking at who has received money in the past and figuring out ways to ensure that we can have a more diverse number of organizations receiving money in the future. I think it's also important that staff talked about a capacity building fund pilot to ensure that grassroots organizations have more tools, have an initiative that allows them to have more tools to be successful and sustainable. So what I do know, not to disparage staff, I know that staff is working hard and they're in the community all the time and they're talking to all sorts of people all the time. And what they're seeing is the need for more investment. Which is why you heard, staff frankly advocating to me. They're going to be talking to council, talking about the need for greater investments. That's one of the reasons why I'm going out and talking to our partners at the provincial level about greater investments so that we can have more money to invest in these types of initiatives. There's more, demand than there is supply of dollars. Tax dollars are always limited, especially at the city level. The city level, as you had just heard, we have to balance budgets and we have to do all sorts of things that are mandated by the province. And so that doesn't provide a lot of money that's left for discretionary spending. But I think it's important to really emphasize that when we have discretionary spending, the city is really setting and listening and creating priorities that are based on what residents want. And we're hearing that residents want more investments in equity. In equity initiatives. So we're going to continue to move forward with that, to move forward with investments, to advocate for more investments from senior levels of government so that grassroots organizations can continue, can just frankly continue to have sustainable funding. That is a key thing that I'm going to try to work on this upcoming year with senior levels of government. And we're going to continue to ask for more investments so that not just the city gets money. I think the important thing is for grassroots organizations to receive those dollars from the senior levels of government who can raise and spend much more money than the city or the local government.
Perfect. Thank you. We'll take one more question from the floor and then we'll go back to Zoom.
Hello, my name is Israel. I am a bit more optimistic, especially I was there with the last call when you're talking about the capacity building program. But I do have one thing. This is genuinely a question. I'm not trying to like point anything out in any sly way. When it comes to the special advisors, realistically, how can like a very small grassroots organization get into like consistent contact with one? What's the criteria on like who you prioritize, and how do you at least position yourself better if you guys are having too many people asking for one? Like,
Yes.
Thank you for your question.
Yes, thank you. You're thinking about like meeting with a funding specialist?
yes.
Yes, absolutely. We have two on the floor
Okay.
today. And if you reach out at communityfunding@ottawa.ca, you can let us know your organizations, what you're working on, and we can match you with a specialist that can help you explore opportunities for the organization.
So we actually did that, but then it's been a minute now. That's why I'm asking, like, is there a way I can position myself better? What's going on? Like, what's the thought process behind why it maybe stalls or doesn't work for some people? Like,
so when it comes to funding proposals, like we're very intentional about providing transparent and services to everybody, so everybody has the same information and can access. But we often receive up to 10 times the amount of funding available in requests. We often say in the team that if one of us becomes like millionaire, like we'll fund them all.
oh no, I didn't apply for a grant. I meant for an advisor.
Oh, okay.
Is what we
And
like,
did you have this conversation?
so no, you I think someone from your team like forwarded the message to somebody, but it kind of just stayed.
Oh my God, I am so
in the
sorry
email
that happens
world.
to you. We will definitely follow up, Stefan.
Yeah, I think we received your request and we responded. If you maybe check the response. Yeah.
You know me?
Okay.
Wow.
Right.
Okay.
I remember from the community funding meeting we had. Yeah.
Well, yeah, you responded. Then we talked about forwarding me to somebody, and then
That was done. If you check your email, the response.
Okay, and
take
we
it.
can make sure.
Yeah, we're gonna have to move on to the next
Yeah,
question.
because so I'm telling you that those relationships really like help organizations.
Super. Okay, Michelle, if you're there, if there's any other questions on Zoom, we can take one now. It would love to be a short question.
It's a question. I don't know if I could say it's necessarily short, but Joseph, it's for you. The question is it possible to have a comparison of this year's budget compared to last year's budget to see the evolution? If possible, to share the reasons of the increase or decrease of funding for certain departments. I would be particularly interested in the budget for community services. So it's a bit of a heavy question, Joseph, but perhaps you can answer part of it, and then maybe there's some documents online.
Yeah, absolutely. So there might be some information online, but if you pass your contact information to the councilor's office, they can follow up with us and we can get you something a little bit more detailed. But I will say part of our budgetary increases across the city are to deal with inflationary elements in terms of just keeping things steady. So, you know, all the work that we do, the wages that we pay, all the ongoing operational elements that we talked about. So there is an element of increase that comes from that. There's a smaller element that comes that's related to growth in services. And so we can sort of highlight those two pieces. But yes, there will always generally be some type of increase unless inflation is almost zero or close to nothing. I think we'll continue to see some slight increase in our budgets as we move along from year to year. But we can provide you a little bit more of a detailed breakout if you provide that contact information to Councillor King's office.
Thanks for the response. We're going to go back to the floor if you have a question.
Yes, hi, everybody. I'm going to ask my question in French, sorry. So, mon nom est Antoinette Irarera. Je suis directrice générale de RAFIO, qui est Résilience active des familles immigrantes en Ontario. Et puis, heureusement, j'avais beaucoup de questions. Puis, Papa Lajike Diouf a déjà posé plusieurs questions que j'avais. Et parce que je fais partie de cette coalition sur la santé mentale des communautés noires. Donc, ça ne sera pas long du tout. Alors, j'aimerais juste savoir si ce n'est pas trop demandé, s'il était possible d'envoyer comme une équipe pour constater les résultats ou l'impact que les petites organisations ont sur la grande majorité de la communauté noire ici à Ottawa. Parce que parfois, quand on n'a pas été financé, on se dit, est-ce que vraiment la ville nous croit? Est-ce que la ville connaît vraiment notre impact? J'aimerais savoir si c'était possible de descendre pour peut-être rencontrer nos communautés pour qu'ils puissent témoigner devant vous. Deuxième chose que j'aimerais demander toujours, est-ce qu'il est possible de créer un comité de retour pour qu'on puisse savoir qu'est-ce qui n'a pas marché dans nos domaines pour peut-être s'améliorer, puis pour essayer de faire la compétition comme tout le monde. Je vous remercie.
Merci, Antoinette. D'abord, j'adore l'idée. Oh, yes, absolutely. Okay, and do you mind if I translate your words? Okay, beautiful. So Antoinette is asking if, if the city sees the impact that the small grassroots organizations have on the communities, and that we should get out and see it. And I think I'm going to tag you along with yeah.
Yes.
And I go back to the second one.
Yeah. I was going to add that health outcomes is also a priority in an anti-racism strategy. And as we build this framework to prioritize some of these things, mental health is one of them. So when we get to the stage where we're going to talk to the city first to evaluate the possibility of these actions that we have in the strategy. But once we start talking to specific outcomes that are pertaining to Black mental health, we'll come to you. So it's important that we do have a number of organizations that consulted on a strategy. I want to make sure that yours is included as well. And we know that organizations keep organizing and studying new initiatives constantly. So I'll talk to you and we can make sure that we have your information for when we come to the consultation stage and engagement to capture the status of the community that you serve. Yeah, et merci beaucoup pour la question.
And I'm just going to add to your last point about getting feedback on why the applications were not successful. Yes, it is always available as a one-on-one with the funding specialist. And in some cases, they can pinpoint areas that can be improved in an application. In other cases, there was a very strong proposal, but not enough funding. And the grant writing workshops are going to start in February. I'm going to answer some of those questions as well.
Perfect. Okay, we'll have another question from the floor.
Hi. It's okay. Thank you. Very helpful. My question is about employment innovation and the impact of AI. AI is, as you know, right, impacting every aspect of our life. According to CBC, 50% of the Canadian jobs in the next 5-10 years will be eliminated by automation. Okay, we are seeing it already, right? So, right now, because of the tariff, other tensions and AI, the entry level jobs are disappeared. So there are a lot of university graduates, college graduates who are unemployed, frustrated, and there will be, as a result, the federal government established the Minister of Artificial Intelligence, right? So including having some large budget in billions, okay? So recently also, they asked for public engagement for Canadian AI strategy, okay? We personally, Councillor King also, involved in twice in our symposium. So we summarized 10 360 potential strategy to include all diverse, society, not to be left behind, okay?
I don't want to rush you, my dear, but we need you to have to ask the question.
So my question will be, what does the city of Ottawa do to get our fair share? Because Toronto get a lot of money, other cities get a lot of money. How do you champion us? We have strong cases, very successful ideas, products in some cases. What do you do to champion us, to represent us? Really, we don't want to be like this. We are very strong, but I think we know that the city has limitation in terms of capital, right? But we can do more. And also, in the next couple of years, there will be a lot of unemployment from federal government, about 27,000. I don't know where they are, those people. They will be here. So what do you do? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
No, thank you for Alem for those questions. And as you know, I'm really driven by the idea of ensuring that youth have all the tools to be successful, especially Black youth. And that's one of the reasons why, I've been involved in many of your events and initiatives. I think it's important for us to ensure that the discussion around economic development involves AI and Black youth and frankly, diverse communities, because there's a tremendous amount of opportunity there. And so I think the first thing we need to do is have discussions with our economic development agency, with Invest Ottawa, about how are we going to ensure that Black youth are around the table in terms of these entrepreneurial initiatives. I know that they've started to have those discussions. I think that's very important. The more important thing to me is ensuring that initiatives, some of the initiatives, frankly, that you've been working on and developing, get into the community in terms of on a grassroots basis. So I think it's very important. We've been having discussions with Black-owned IT consultants about, courses and accreditation occurring in our in different venues, such as the ACB Wellness Resource Center, so that the youth can start to experiment with this technology, not just for economic development opportunities, which I think is very important, but also just around social innovation. I mean, we've seen amazing things in Ward 13, in our Incubator 13 laboratory, where youth have been assisting low-income families create healthier meals by leveraging AI. They figure, people might have low incomes, but almost everybody increasingly has a cell phone. And these youth did something really incredible. They went into a classroom environment and taught, lower income families how they could use AI to look at what's in their fridges and create healthy meals, even if there's limited items in their kitchens. So I just think we need to unleash the potential in terms of both economic development opportunities. And I get very excited when I go to the schools. I tell the youth this, frankly, just start playing around with the technology. If I had technology 20 years ago that would allow me to program without knowing programming, and just to say, try to solve a problem, create software that solves a problem. I'm sure I might not be in this job. I might be competing against Bill Gates, right? And so what we want to do is ensure that our kids are able to leverage that type of technology so that they are competing against Bill Gates, so that we are competing against Silicon Valley, that we are reinvesting in Silicon Valley North. And that starts with grassroots initiatives, with just allowing the youth to experiment with the technology and to understand the technology. So I agree with you. We're going to continue to work on it. And I know that there are initiatives there that we can work on.
I'm sorry, we don't have time. No, I'm sorry. We really have to leave here soon. I'm sorry. We have one more question on Zoom. really needs to be short, please. And then we're going to go to the floor, last question. So Michelle, if you have the last question via Zoom.
I do. I'm going to be reading it on behalf of Michelle James, who's asking it from the Ottawa Black Mental Health Coalition. She is asking, what are the city's plans around investment in mental health, especially considering pandemic supports have ceased, but negative after effects for mental health in the community, particularly for youth, continue to persist and escalate?
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you. Thank you, Michelle. I don't have all the information with me about all the investment. I know that I can tell you that mental well-being is a priority of the community funding framework, but there's a lot more work being done with the Consultation and Wellbeing Plan team on this. And I wouldn't want to miss initiatives or misspoke. So if you're okay with that, I would be happy to reply offline to have more information on that.
Perfect. Thank you. Our last floor. Go ahead.
Just quickly on the political level, I do want you to know that obviously health isn't the direct jurisdictional responsibility of the municipality. But we want to see more investments in health, especially primary care. And I do see mental health as being part and parcel of that. So, just a month or so ago, my colleague, Councillor Plant actually introduced a motion around trying to ensure that we enhance primary care here in the city through a number of measures. And so I see mental health in terms of the advocacy with the province being a major part of that, especially for the Black community. I think it's important. So I really applaud the work that the Black Mental Health Coalition is doing. And I think we have to focus as well on our own community, which is one of the reasons why just last week I was one of the signatories to the Ottawa Declaration for Black Health. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and that's been acknowledged by that document. I signed on to that document because it said all levels of government need to really focus on doing this work and continue to advocate for more resources. So I just want you to know that work is underway at the highest levels at the city, politically and administratively, in terms of focusing on mental health and Black mental health especially.
We'll get the final question from the floor.
Okay, thank you. My name is Ines and I am the Vice President of RAFIO. So I will be very straightforward, 3 operational questions. The first one is really access to training for community frontline workers. Is there a possibility that the city opens quotas at least so that the community workers are trained as per the city team standard? We are lacking funding to train our people, but you have the fund, you are building trainings. Can we access them? The second is really more about the structural funding for community organizations, which is more about communication. Being able to produce the right communication material is extremely important. Funding being small, we cannot have a communication or a community manager per each organization. Can we mutualize different organizations' funds so that we have at least one communication person for a bigger number of organizations? And the last but not least, et je pose la question en français, est-ce qu'il est possible éventuellement que la ville contribue à créer en fait des tables de conversation interreligieuses, intra-religieuses, intercommunautaires pour qu'on n'ait pas l'impression de l'extérieur qu'on est en bataille de qui a le plus besoin, mais de trouver des synergies d'équipe pour avancer ensemble sur des problématiques communes. Merci. Thank you.
I want to say for the question on training, I know that for us, our focus is to make sure that our staff in the small equity team are training city staff who are going to interact with you. But I will be interested in what kind of training you're mentioning, because I'm thinking about the capacity building fund for 2026. If that comes to your organization to support how you train your staff, what does that look like? And then that is something that we can feature in the small 120 compared to this, to see if your organization can build capacity within themselves. We do agree that there's a lot of expertise and knowledge in the community to support training. And sometimes we actually get external trainers to come and train us. So we would like you to redirect that ask to them, but then with our support for that. So that is something that we can talk to Cynthia's team about, allocating some of our budget that is in an anti-racism strategy to support your organization in growing that way.
But we also extend training, like upstandard training. So I'll just add, we do have opportunities when we do leverage other community organizations and we put forward some external training. We do try to find opportunities where we can open it up to the public. We just got some funding from the anti-hate campaign and we offered all kinds of educational opportunities. So we encourage you to reach out to us if you want to learn more. We'd be happy to have a dialogue with you. So thank you.
And to the point about what we call like shared services, this is something that we've heard clearly as well in the engagement this year. So it's something that we're like exploring what the resources are around. It is not something that is provided by the city, but they are organizations, network coalitions that can offer those services for organization, like shared finances, HR, communication, grant writers. So yeah, we know this is a gap as well.
Okay. Thank you so much. Oh, no, go ahead.
Pour la question pour les synergies en religion, je pense que c'est un sujet important pour commencer les conversations. Je sais que pour notre équipe, c'est on essaie d'utiliser votre expertise et aussi l'expertise des autres religions pour avancer les conversations. Donc, je peux te parler pour explorer comment est-ce qu'on peut échanger les idées et aussi commencer le partenariat pour explorer le forum. Je sais que pour la campagne de lutte contre la haine, on essaie de prioriser les religions qui sont présentes à Ottawa. Et on peut voir pour 2026 comment engager les conversations autour de ça. Et pour 2025, on a seulement parlé de la religion d'islam, l'intersection avec l'équité des genres, mais on peut expand. Je pense plus en français. Comment ça? Étendre l'intersection pour d'autres religions, pour commencer une discussion construisante pour ça. Merci.
Thank you so much for the response. Just before we close, I'll get you to do the closing remarks. We want to thank everybody for coming to the engagement session. We want to thank everybody that's on Zoom for all the questions. If you have any follow-up questions, please take one of the pamphlets back there and also respond to Councillor Rawlson King's office with any follow-up questions that you may have. I want to thank everybody for coming and Bacchanal for supporting with the delicious refreshments. So I'll get Councillor King to do the closing. Thank you so much, Rawlson.
Thank you so much, Sophia, and thank you for staying with us through the entire consultation. Thank you for your thoughtful questions, your honest concerns, and your commitment to our community. To everyone who spoke tonight, whether you approached a microphone here in person or joined us via Zoom, your contributions have been invaluable. You've raised important issues, challenged us to think more deeply about our priorities, and reminded us why community engagement is at the heart of effective local government. I also want to thank the presenters from the city this evening. If you could give them a round of applause. Joseph, Sonia, Alice, as well as Cynthia. Your expertise and willingness to engage with our community's questions demonstrates the collaborative spirit we need to build a better Ottawa. I really want to thank you for being here tonight. And as Sophia has said, if you have any other concerns about the budget, please get involved. There are still, I think, maybe 5 more sessions or so to go in terms of committee meetings where you can delegate and express your concerns to both council and to staff. as well as please feel free to reach out to my office either by email at Rideau-Rockcliffe Ward at ottawa.ca or by phone. We take all incoming input and it is reflected in the policy making that we do. We also want to remind you that budget making is not just in November and December, it is year round. So please ensure that you contact our office with your concerns. Many of you do, and it has translated, as you might have seen tonight, into investments. And we want to see even more investments made by the city. So once again, thank you so much. And finally, I'd like to thank the Unitarian congregation for being such a wonderful host this evening here at Heartwood House. Thank you so much, everybody.
Is this off? Is it off? We just want to let everybody know if they could start making their way out the door because we do have to wrap up.